Okay, by my watch, it is exactly, wait for it, 12:30. So welcome to this JULAC webinar. It's the first JULAC webinar, actually, where librarians are kind of taking the lead in terms of our sharing. So this is really interesting for us to do. I've just noticed my camera has stopped moving. Are you still seeing me? Or is my camera gone off? Let me try again. Am I
Yeah,
back?
it's yeah, great.
Typical. We rehearsed everything perfectly, and as soon as it starts, there's a little glitch. Hopefully, that will be the one and only glitch for today. If you're just coming in, please do join the presentation. There's a direct link in the chat, and there's a QR code up there that you can scan. And I can see many of you already are giving us a lot of likes there. Yes, so welcome formally to this webinar, Elevate Your Scholarship, Exploring Generative AI with Your Library. And I'm not ashamed to say that ChatGPT did help a little bit with that title, although there was a lot of human input, of course, as we'll be discussing. So we're thrilled with the response. We already have over 200 participants, and the number keeps climbing. So we're absolutely thrilled with the response to this event. And it really shows the keen interest that there is now in AI. Let me introduce myself properly. My name is Chris Chan. I'm the university librarian at Hong Kong Baptist University. It's my great pleasure to be presenting today with my colleagues, Ms. Lily Ko, who's the head of research and learning support at CUHK Library, and also Mr. Lewis Lee, who's the head of instruction and reference services at CityU Library. So without further ado, let me start by just going over our session outline. So I'll talk for a little bit about some basics, which you may or may not have heard before, but I think it's important that we all have that baseline. And many of these concepts do bear repeating. So prompt engineering for effective use of generative AI. Lily's going to share some very important insights into evaluating and verifying information created by generative AI tools. And Lewis will be doing a demonstration where he'll show one of the tools that's available at JULAC libraries, and we'll give participants kind of an overview of what the JULAC libraries are doing. And remember, though, all this is subject to change. That's kind of one of our themes, is that AI is very fast moving, so things develop at a rapid pace. And we will try to keep things as interactive as possible as well. So speaking of that, to kind of try and warm things up, warm everyone up, the reason why I've asked you to join the presentation is to do a little survey, to a little icebreaker. So first question is, how frequently do you use generative AI tools? Now, I've hidden the responses just to, I don't know, keep you in suspense, but I can see, wow, you're very quick. 50, 60 people have already responded. That's great. Let me unhide them and see them come in real time. Okay, interesting. Let's give you another 10 seconds because we do want to keep things moving. Great. Wow, 100. I do these quizzes all the time, but I don't usually have such a big audience. This is great. 3, 2, 1. I'll just start interpreting them now. So pretty heavy users of AI tools here. So it'd be great to hear from you as well, what you think about these tools. A couple of people who've never used AI tools. That's interesting. Thank you for showing up to this AI tools event. Quite a few in the sometimes rarely stage. Interesting. I'm doing a little experiment here. I now want to ask you, how would you describe your attitude towards generative AI tools? And as you can see on the slide there too, I'm going to segment your responses by how frequently you said you use generative AI tools. A little bit of action research here. Again, we'll keep things quick, just 10 seconds to respond. Oh, some people are asking or are answering in the Q&A. Don't answer in the Q&A. Answer on the presentation. I'll just pop the QR code up there again. And also there is a direct link in the chat, which I'm going to pop in again. So that's where you can respond. So not in the Q&A box, but directly in this presentation. Okay, let's see what you said. Oh, interesting. Okay. I think there's a little bit of a correlation there. So people who are see it as very positive or somewhat positive tend to be more frequent users. And that's really interesting too. Only one person has a very negative attitude towards AI. Now, I guess it's kind of self-selecting because if you've taken your lunchtime to learn about AI, you probably have at least a, somewhat positive or neutral response. That's interesting too. One last question. Just want to rate yourself on your understanding of how generative AI tools work. So whether it's, and this one I won't hide, we'll just see what the average is. So you can see it's out of 10. Fantastic. Again, let's make it 10 seconds. So it looks like we have 130, 140 plus responses. This is a very long 10 seconds. I think there are so many participants that the timer is a bit wonky. Anyway, looks like it's averaging out to a 5.2. And frankly, that's probably where I put myself too. So I think it's really good. And you can see this squiggly line here is kind of the distribution of all the responses. So, most of us claiming sort of, general understanding, but we don't consider ourselves experts. And also, I think that's where most of us in academia are now. So you must have a lot of questions. And we did receive a lot of questions during the registration too, and we will address some of them. Oh, and before I forget, one very important question that was asked during the registration: will a recording be made of this session? And the answer is yes, it will be, and that will be uploaded to HKBU Library's YouTube channel in hopefully just a few days. But going back to this question of an understanding of how generative AI works, I think it's important that we have these conceptual understandings. And a useful analogy that I heard recently was one to, driving a car, right? To drive a car, you don't need to know exactly how an internal combustion engine works, right? You don't need to know how to build one, but it's useful to know the concepts of how it works. It needs petrol. This is how, the steering wheel works. This is how the suspension works. And that will make you a better driver. And I think the same applies to generative AI. You don't need to be able to program AI. You don't need to be able to create a large language model from scratch. But conceptually, if you know how they work, you can be a better user of these tools. So that's why I want to start with some of the basics. But I can see many of you report having some knowledge already, so I won't linger too long on how generative AI works. This, by the way, as librarians, we always cite our sources. This comes from IBM research. So these are models that are trained on raw data sets and I use quotation marks here, to learn to generate statistically probable outputs. So basically look at a very large set of data and, figure out, if this word appears probabilistically, what words are likely to follow. And that's an oversimplification, of course, but using these data to encode a simplified representation of those training data. And then the models are able to create new works, so original works, like unique works that are similar to the original data. So as I'm sure, as we saw in your survey, I think everyone has used these tools by this point, and the results can be really amazing, astounding. They really give the illusion of knowledge, of understanding, of creativity. But the point I want to make right at the beginning, which I think is so important, is that we don't yet, I say yet, and I don't think we'll have in the near future either, we don't have an artificial general intelligence that really understands what it is doing. So last week, I had the great pleasure to go to HKBU's International Symposium on Humanities, Societies, and Digital Futures, where there were a number of excellent keynote speakers on this topic of artificial intelligence. And the one they put right at the beginning was this one, which I think was a very good decision on the part of the organizers, is Dr. Wayne Holmes from University College London. And he reminded everyone right at the beginning, and he was using ChatGPT as an example, that the output seems human, but it is not. It looks accurate, and this is important from information literacy perspective. It often isn't. Looks definitive, but it isn't. Looks intelligent, but it isn't. And that last one, I think, is the most important. Looks as if it understands, but it doesn't. And my colleagues know, and they will tell you, I'm very enthusiastic about AI tools. But I think at the same time, it's incredibly important to be skeptical and to have that firm understanding of what AI is and what it is not. And I really like Dr. Holmes's use of this, of his slide. The image behind it is a funhouse mirror. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but certainly in England, they have, fun fairs. And one of the standard attractions is like a place with really weird mirrors. And that's, and so people will go up and they will look at themselves and you can see their reflection is all weird. And that's kind of what ChatGPT is doing. It's taking the real world and just mixing it up and throwing it back to you in kind of a weird way, which can be very useful, but it is not understanding. When you have a conversation with ChatGPT, that understanding is not there. And I think that all underpins when we think about these tools, we have to keep that skeptical mindset. And that was reinforced by another keynote at the same symposium, this time Professor Daniel Sway from Virginia State University. I really like this framing that it's not really artificial intelligence, but intelligence amplification, that we can think of these tools as things that will enhance us rather than us relying on AI to do the thinking for us, because that's something we can be very clear about too. Generative AI tools will not do your thinking for you, but they have the potential to amplify your own intellectual ability. So it could make you more efficient, could enable you to make connections and derive insights or find things that you might not otherwise have been able to locate. And very important, our intelligence, uniqueness, creativity, that's going to continue to be central to knowledge creation. As I mentioned, artificial general intelligence has not been achieved, may not be developed for a very long time. Of course, the jury's out on a lot of that. Some people think it's, maybe by 2030. Others think it won't be developed, in our lifetimes. But at the moment, I guess we can be very confident today that it's our human input to creativity will be central still. Now, with that caveat, those caveats are very important. There's a lot of potential, right? Generative AI tools empower us to do things not previously possible. Now, I have some skills. Artistic ability is not one of them. I cannot draw. I've never been artistic, really bad. But the background for this presentation, which is the image I'm showing you here, I created that. Obviously not myself, but I used Midjourney to create an original image. That's something I could never do before. So it's been amazing for me because I do need to generate images quite frequently in my work for presentations, but you still need to have skills to do this effectively. So as a librarian, we're often doing presentations to students about how librarians can help, and an image is good for that. So here's a prompt that I used on Midjourney: a librarian helping 3 university students with research. These images are terrible from a librarian's perspective, because they have a very traditional view about libraries, like just books. Many of those pictures look pretty dark, poring over text. Like, this is not what library work looks like. So with a change to the prompt, I could arrive at something better. So here my prompt changed: an information professional helping 3 university students with online research, high-tech minimalist style. Much better. This is stuff that I could use. Now, could of course be further refined. So this is a very basic example of prompt engineering, which is essentially thoughtful construction of your prompts to produce high quality responses. And it's an iterative process of fine tuning. And I really think, and I'll kind of elaborate on this at length, I think this is something librarians and your librarians at your institutions can really help you with, because this is something we've been teaching for literally decades with search engines. You know, with our databases, you very rarely get exactly what you want on the first try. Same thing with AI tools. The first prompt that you try out will not necessarily be the one that works, or very rarely. Now, again, like I said with the car analogy, the awareness of the technical aspects is useful, but you don't have to be an expert. And some of these technical aspects are things like tokens, things like the temperature of the model, so you can tell the model to be more quote unquote creative or more sort of mechanistic. And just be aware that different AI models will work differently. So ChatGPT is very different to Midjourney. So again, librarians very well placed to deliver help on prompt engineering, because our skill set includes the ability to think deeply about information, its provenance, where it came from, and also interrogating databases. Again, we've been doing that for years, thinking about the best search strategies to retrieve needed information. And in many ways, generative AI tools are similar. Now, library thought leaders are addressing this and sort of creating frameworks for librarians to help their researchers, their students, their faculty to think about prompt engineering. So the one that I use, there are several out there, but the one that I'm most familiar with is this CLEAR framework by Leo Lowe, who's the Dean of Libraries at the University of New Mexico. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty clear. Be concise. Have your prompts be as short as possible. Be logical. Does your prompt make sense? Is it clear? Even though artificial intelligence is not thinking, you still need to present information to it clearly. And this is related to your language skills. So we as human users of AI, we still need to have good language abilities. Now, be explicit. Say precisely what it is that you want and how you want the AI to arrive at the output. Be adaptive. Now, that relates to iteration. Change your prompt based on the output that you get. So again, very similar to what we've taught for years with databases. Be reflective. Continuously evaluate to improve your future prompts. So going back to that Midjourney prompt that I showed you, upon reflection, so I did reflect after that first prompt didn't give me what I really wanted, I realized it was the word librarian that was causing the problem, because again, Midjourney is trained on a lot of data, but there's a lot of bias in that data, right? And the bias for librarians is that people think we just deal with books. So when you ask for pictures of librarians, you get people, poring over books, even though that's very, only a small part of our profession today. And Lily will be talking in more detail about biases and how to, think about that in terms of AI. So just a very brief example, because we do want to give you examples today, and Lily will be giving you examples. Lewis will be demonstrating some use of AI tools. But here's an example of applying the CLEAR framework to a prompt. So, for example, I have a history question. I used to study history. This is an example of one that probably not so good. Can you provide me with a thorough discussion of the causes of the English Civil War? What is the most important? Not really that concise, and it's definitely not explicit. It's not really saying precisely what you want, like a thorough discussion. Now, that could be anything, really. And that second sentence, what is most important? The logic of that is not perfect. Now, I won't do a live demo because that will take too long. But here's a screenshot of what HKBU's ChatGPT produced. And as you can see, it's not even the whole thing. It kept going. It was really long and kind of meandering because I didn't tell it precisely what I wanted. So applying the CLEAR framework to that, you can tighten it up a bit. Concise, make it shorter. More precise too, explicitly tell it, sorry, that's the E for explicit. I want a 250-word summary of 3 most important causes of the English Civil War, and also be explicit about how you want the AI model to do that. Use only reliable sources in your answer and provide citations to them in APA style. And of course, after applying this, that's the whole response, because I told it I only wanted a short response. And there are the references too. Caveat there, of course, Lily will talk more about it. Check those references. They might be hallucinations. They might be made up. But that's just, a very brief example of how we can use prompt engineering to make sure the AI model is doing what we want it to do. And all of this comes through experience as well. So I think I've kept to time there almost perfectly, 20 minutes exactly. But again, this is something that librarians have helped with for forever, refining queries for information tools in order to get better results. And it's something we're experimenting with a lot. But with that, let me hand it over to Lily to talk about the important next step. After interrogating the AI tool and you get the output, now you need to evaluate and verify what you have gotten. So over to you, Lily.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, everybody. Let's talk about evaluating and verifying information created by Gen AI tool. Next slide, please. We'll talk about the limitations and then how we evaluate the content. Next, please. Let's have a question first. We can always be sure that the information generated by AI tools is up to date. Can you let me know your thoughts, true or false? Let's have 10 seconds to collect your response.
The timer's not working very well today, Lily.
So let's have a look of the result. It's a 10 seconds. Yeah. Well, it's most of us thinks about it's false. Next slide, please. Then let's talk about when you think and we think that it's false. So what's the limitations of AI? The first one is the currency of information. That is, for example, the ChatGPT, the knowledge cutoff date is September 2021, and ChatGPT 4 is April 2023. Next, please. So let's have an example. If we ask the same question, that is who won the NBA champions last year, let it put it on poll, then the answer we generate is, as of my knowledge, cutoff is September 2021. So the champions, the NBA champions, was the one for 2021. We will put it the same questions on Copilot. The answer would be different because Copilot is linked to the internet. So that is the real-time information. It shows us that the 2023 NBA Finals champions. So when we choose the AI, generative AI tools, please bear in mind the cutoff date of the knowledge. Next, please. Another one is limitations, is biases. Generative AI shows various types of biases, including gender bias, racial bias, class bias, sexual orientation bias, and more. And from the source, one of the example, and we also, one of the comments show us that current generative AI tools tends to stereotypically represent women as stay-at-home moms or rather than working professionals. Or another problematic tendency is to show white people as well off, while those with dark skin as poor or even criminals. Next, please. Let's have some of the examples of the biases. These examples show us that one studies 8,000 occupational portraits produced by 3 popular generative AI tools such as Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, etc. Then after reviewing it, it shows the systematic gender and racial biases. And other studies from Bloomberg also have similar results. It analyzed 5,000 images created by stable diffusions. And from the left-hand side examples, it shows that when we type teachers, the lighter color has more number of people from the lighter colors, and more of them are from women. But when we try another example, CEO, then male becomes a large portion of the image. Next, please. This is another examples of the studies. That's the studies analyze different kinds of generative AI tools with 9 health-related questions. And all models had examples of perpetuating race-based medicines in their responses. It shows us that no matter the text-generated AI tools or the image AI tools, they also have biases. Next slide, please. Then what happens of this biases? The large language models predicts the next possible word in a sentence based on training data. And the training data come from human created contents. So as Jobin said, ChatGPT is the public shadow. It tells us who we are based on what we said collectively, because without or absence of human oversight and monitoring. Next, please. Because of the biases, and some of us have already noticed this problem. So this is example show us that Google's image generator, Gemini, try to correct the existing biases. Let's have a look of the images here. It shows us that when it tries to correct the existing bias, the results might be create extreme historical inaccuracy. So the biases is not a easy to solve problem. Next, please. Besides of the biases, it might also create harmful information and false advice. This is from this table, we have a number of examples of application here. For example, if we want to use generative AI to give us some health information, it might generate false medical advice or information. If we rely on that it might cause a lot of problems. Next slide, please. So after we heard about that, let's think about this. Since generative AI tools create original content, there is no issue with copyright infringement. What do you think? Let's have a few seconds to collect response. And most of us think it's false. So let's have a look. Next slide. The copyrights and plagiarism concerns are the other issues of generative AI. The cases of AI tools using copyright materials without permissions have to be taken to courts. For example, the New York Times filed a copyright infringement lawsuit against Microsoft and OpenAI because the New York Times company, they claimed that Microsoft and OpenAI are infringing copyrights when they trained their large language models on material copyrighted by the Times, and they did not permit for them to do it. So the copyright is one of the issues we have to bear in mind. And the other one is plagiarism. If the AI-generated contents failed to provide the correct citation to trace the original source, users may face challenges in providing proper citations, which could potentially lead to plagiarism. From the table on the screen's right-hand side, it shows that this is one of the studies by Waters and Wider. They have their studies. They have studies a number of interdisciplinary journals and papers. Then they found out that the ChatGPT 3.4, the fabricated citations, that is not the true citation, the fabricated citations, the rate is for ChatGPT 3.5 is 55%, and for ChatGPT 4 is 18%. From this percentage, ChatGPT 4 actually has improvements, but the problem's still there. That is also the fabricated citations. So we have to bear in mind that to check the original source. Next, please. So because of the limitations and concerns, we need to know how to evaluate generative AI content. Next, please. So let's do this poll. We can avoid problems with plagiarism by citing the contents produced by generative AI tools. Is it true or false? As long as we cite, is it we can avoid plagiarism? Do you think this question is true or false? False. Thank you. So let's have a look of next slide. That is as we talk about the generative AI tools might produce fabricated citations. So we have to keep a skeptical mindset and always ensure the authenticity and authority of cite sources. We need to verify the citations to make sure that that citation is true. Even the citation is a true citations, we also need to verify they actually align with the claims made by the AI, because sometimes the citation is true. The generated contents or the generated statements might not be exactly correct. So we have to keep a skeptical mindset. So to conclude, next slide, please. Our recommendations will be, we should always adopt a skeptical mindset and do not copy or cite AI-generated content directly in your research or assignments. Always check and cite the original sources. And this kind of practice is aligned with our existing research process. Now, let's move on to the final part of our presentation. And then I will pass the time to Louis. Louis, please.
Okay, thank you, Lily. I think it's time to do some hands-on. So first of all, I'm going to show you how to use Scite, and also how Scite can help us to streamline our research process. So maybe we can go to the slide. So for those who are new to Scite, actually Scite is a AI-powered tools where you can search for scientific articles like Web of Science and Scopus. And what's special about Scite is that you can search with metadata, and also you can find full text articles from publishers like Wiley, Sage, and even Cambridge. And also you can find open sources like OA journals, articles, and also from PubMed. And Scite can help you to search with metadata and also citation statement. So what we mean by citation statement here is that it can search for sentence which is before and after the in-text citation. And Scite can help you to identify and also classify the citation statement to see whether the citation statement is supporting to your research claims or contrasting or even just mention about the research. So in this demonstration, I will show you how to use Scite Assistant. So actually, Scite Assistant is a generative AI tool which is provided by Scite. So next. So some of the institute is not subscribed to Scite right now, But if you want to try Scite, you can register for a 7-day trial, so which is free, and also you can enjoy the full feature of the site. So please try it if you haven't got the Scite subscription right now. So next. So when you access to Scite, so you will be able to see on the left-hand side, so this is the Scite assistant. This is the interface. It's very clean and concise. And which is actually is a ChatGPT. So in the demonstration, I will show you some of the use cases that you can use the Scite assistant to streamline your research process. So for example, we will start with some simple questions and also to summarize the content, and also to identify some research topics, to find some hypotheses, and also to see what's the option for the research design and methodology, and so on. All right, so maybe I can switch to the demonstration right now, and let me share the screen. All right, so when you get to the site, so you will be able to see something like this. So this is the interface of Scite. And what we focus here is the assistant. So you can see on the top here, when you click assistant, you will be able to get to the ChatGPT version of this site. All right, so you can see from this screen at the bottom, so you can just click on the prompt to try if you want to, or we can start something like this to search for something like, I want the Scite assistant to write me a summary about physical activity. So let me just put on the prompt here and then click search. So it takes a few seconds to generate the content. So right here, so you can see on the screen. So this is the response generated by the Scite assistant. And also along with the content, so you will be able to see the in-text citation. So just like this one, all right? When you mouse over the citation, you will be able to see the details about this citation. For example, the title and also the publication year and the journal title. And for this citation on the right-hand side, so you can see even more details. So for example, you can see where the source come from. So from this article, the source is come from this section within the paper. And when you expand the content, so you will be able to see this is the the content which is from this section. So this is the source of this content. And when you scroll down, you can see here, when you expand the pull down, you will be able to see the search term that Scite is using to search this database. And you are feel free to edit the search term. For example, you can put in your own search term, or you can add another one. So it's up to you. So once you're done, you can start another search. And down here, you can also see the publication consult by this Scite AI. So here you can see these are the publication within this Scite database that to generate this content. And if you are not satisfied with this result, you can even have further customization. So you can see this icon here on the left-hand side. So when you click on this icon, you will be able to see some settings. So for example, you can specify the year range of these articles, for example, from 2000 to 2020. And also you can specify the publication type, and also the citation style which generate to you. So for example, I change to IEEE. And also the response length, so by default is medium. So if you want longer length, of course, it require you to have to wait more time to generate the content, right? So et cetera, et cetera. So for example, I just change the citation style and then apply. And I will do another search like this one. So let me click on search. So this is another research topic I would like to see. So for example, I would like to see is what are the 3 factors that affect the obesity of the children So you can see the content is now generated. And now the citation style will be changed to IEEE. So you can see from this result, the citation style is now changed to IEEE, which is in number format, okay? All right. So this is what you can do with the customization. And also, if you expand on the left-hand side, you can see these are the history. So the past history that you have already done for the search. And also you can download the search content when you mouse over either one. So you can click download. So once you click download, you will be able to see there's two options. You can save as a text file or a CSV file. If you save as a text file, then everything you see in the screen will be saved as a text file. And also, you are always recommend to click on the new chart if you have another new topic. So once I click on the new chart, so everything starts from the beginning. So for example, I have another topics. So I want to see whether the short-term and long-term effect of smoking, which is effect on the lung health, and also what are the mechanisms involved. So for example, like this. And once I click the search, so now it's generating, and also start from the beginning. So it's a new chat, and you will be able to see the response. All right. So this very straightforward. So you may have some idea about a research topics, right? But you want the site assistant to give you some suggestions. For example, right here, let me switch to here. For example, in this case, you have some research in your mind, and you want the site assistant to give you some potential research topics. So you can type in your prompt like this. So assume you are a university researcher, and you are an expert in sports science and physical activity, and you are interested in the treatment option for the sedentary behavior, particularly focus on lifestyle change, education, and to avoid prolonged uninterrupted sitting. So please suggest 10 research questions on this topic. So I would like to put this in the prompt and see what's the result. I start a new one and just put it here. All right, and then click search. And you will be able to see the site assistant will generate 10 potential research topics to you. So which will be shown right now. All right. So you can see here, we have 10 research topics. And if you want more, then you can specify 20, 30. Okay, it's up to you. And if you want to go further, for example, if you want to pick up either one of this topic, you can construct another prompt and to ask your another question, and also the question can be more focused and more specific on a particular area. So this is what site assistant can do for you, particularly to give you some potential research topics. Another thing is sometimes after you select the research topic, you might want to have some hypothesis. So for example, in this prompt, so this is my research question, so which is about the verbal cues and demonstration, whether these two kinds of method can enhance the motor learning for children. So I would like to see if the site assistant can give me some hypothesis, so at least 3 hypotheses, and also to explain in detail about the hypothesis. So I just put this into the prompt and see what's going on. So the result will give you some advice. So particularly on the 3 hypotheses, related to this topic. So you can see here. So we give you 1, 2, 3, the 3 hypotheses. And also, so this is the hypothesis, and this is the description about the hypothesis. So you can see, and also you can refine your prompt if you want to be more specific and also more concise about the hypothesis. Okay, let's see. So this is also an interesting thing. If you, after you have your hypothesis, you may start to have your design, experimental design, and also the methodology. So in this prompt, this is my research topic, for example, is about the autonomy support, which may have positively influence on the motivation and engagement in motor learning. And I would like the site assistant to give me some advice on the study designs, including advantage and disadvantages of the following options of the study designs, including the quantitative study, cross-sectional study, and also RCT. RCT stand for random control trial, and also others. So I would like the site assistant to give me some advice, which experimental design is best for these research topics. So I would like to copy again and go to the prompt and click start. So you will be able to see some suggestions which are given by the site assistant. And also for each of the experimental design, we give you some comments. So which one is best, which one is not good. So you can see, so let's wait for a while. All right, so you can see different, for example, the RCT, there is some consideration, and also crossover trial and other explanation, and also the cohort study also have some description. So we'll give you some advice about which experimental design is best for your research. Of course, this is just for your reference. It's not saying that you must follow this, okay? And also, some of the researcher might want to have analyze a document. So for example, if you have a articles on hand, which is in PDF format, and you don't want to read through the articles, you just upload the article to the Scite AI, and then ask some questions about the articles. So, so this is what I'm trying to do. So assume this is my articles, so in PDF format, and I'm going to upload this article into the site assistant, and then ask some questions about this article. So let's see how we can do this. So again, I start a new one, and then you can see here sources. Okay, when you click sources, you will be able to see there's an option called Analyze Documents. So you can just click on this to upload a document. So I upload a PDF file. Let's see this one, okay? And then upload. So it only takes a few seconds to upload the document. So it's pretty fast. So let's wait. So after you upload the document, you will be able to see now down here. So this is the document you want to analyze. And then you can ask some questions about this document. So for example, let's see. So what is the methodology, for example? So what is the methodology used in this research? So let me see. All right, so it's give you the methodology. For example, this research is using the cross-sectional study, okay? And also have some questionnaire about the BMI measurement and so forth, okay? So if you also want to see the sample size, so you can also put in the prompt, we specify the sample size. You want to know about the sample size, about this research. Then it will give you this research actually. Let's see. Usually, this research is recruiting to hundreds medical students for this research. So you can type in any question you like, and then the Scite AI will give you the response about the content of these articles. All right, so let's see. So I think this is a very quick demonstration on how to use the Scite Assistant to streamline your research. And I think I highly recommend you to register a free account to try it and to see what's the Scite Assistant can do or cannot do. Okay, so let me hand on to Chris. So let me stop share.
Thanks so much, Lewis. That's brilliant. I haven't had a chance to use Scite myself, so I'll definitely be signing up for one of those free accounts. But someone asked a very good question, which libraries do subscribe to it, and my colleague Eunice has answered that. So if you look under the answered questions, you can see if your library has a subscription, or again, as Lewis said, if not, you can try the free version. Speaking of our support for AI tools. Oh, and let me share this link in the chat so it's easier for you to get. This is a PDF version of this slide. You can see Scite is very popular among the JULAC libraries. So there are 4 libraries who currently have subscriptions, and the links to the specific place to get more information is on that slide too, which has just been shared in the chat. HKBU, we're a bit of an outlier. We support a different tool called Consensus, and there's a link to our information page about that too. For HKBU users, if you haven't seen that before, on our YouTube channel is a very long introduction to it by one of the co-founders of Consensus, if you want to learn more about it. And just like Scite, there is a free version too, if you're at another institution and you want to try it out. And I would say if your library doesn't subscribe to a tool that you would like to see available, let your library know. And I'm sure the recommendation will be considered. I do want to zoom on to our questions because there are so many fantastic questions, but I feel the need to sort of end the presentation on this note about being skeptical, as Lily has said, to be critical when using these AI tools, because we're still so early. There are so many things that we don't yet know, and some of your questions reflect a lot of these uncertainties. I wanted to highlight this, and again, I'll pop the link into chat for your easy clicking. This is a blog post by a colleague at HKUST Library, Aster Zhao. She actually compared Scite and Elicit and Consensus and another tool called Scopus AI, specifically looking at generating literature reviews. And she looked at the accuracy, how well they did. It's a really good read and a great reminder that we have to use these tools critically. Again, the AI is not going to do the thinking for us. And I think Aster's very good conclusion here was that these tools will not do your literature review for you. You still need to be applying the critical thinking, making those connections between different studies and research questions, etc. So again, intelligence amplification, not artificial intelligence. We do have so many fantastic questions. I wonder, Lewis and Lily, if you're available, maybe we can go slightly over, because there's no way we can go over all these questions in 5 minutes. But to participants, if you need to rush off, by all means do so. The recording will be available. And just a note, when you do exit the webinar, your browser should pop up with a feedback survey. And if you could just spend a few minutes giving us your feedback, we will, of course, take all of that on board and use it to improve the next event in the JULAC Webinar Series. Now, the difficult part, where to start? I hope I don't feel like a I noticed there's a question from Ben, who's the university librarian at CUHK. So let me pull rank here and sort of let me address Ben's question because it's really thoughtful and really good. I'll try and summarize it. He's really talking about the ethical issues and in using generative AI tools, particularly Midjourney, but even ChatGPT as well, because Lily talked so eloquently about, you know, the ethical issues there. If these models have been trained on copyrighted materials, should we as users be concerned about that? Or as Ben suggests, like maybe we're far enough removed from the copyright infringement that we don't need to ask ourselves those questions. I feel like as end users, we still need to be concerned about that and be aware of those things. Now, if you look at the Midjourney terms of service, it will say, oh, anything you generate with Midjourney, if you have a paid subscription, you can just use it. There's no copyright concerns, etc. But I would say if you have used it ethically. Now, if I had asked Midjourney to create an image in the style of a living artist, say, do it in the style of, I can't think of a living artist off the top of my head, Ai Weiwei, I think he's still with us. So, you know, if I asked for a particular artist's style and, you know, sort of kind of instructing the model to commit copyright infringement, I think that's a problem. But, you know, that's me personally. I don't know, Lily or Lewis, if you have different thoughts on that.
I think for maybe we can separate into the input and output because even for the image generator, and that is the training materials might be the input, and he said that and it's copyrighted materials, that part might be okay, but when we talk about another part is output, that is it generate, it's become if we put set it's ours, the copyrights belong to ours, then we might be also need to pay attention because
that's a good point.
How to claim that it's original, it's ours, it's also uncertain. It's still uncertain. So
many
I agree.
uncertainties.
Yes, I agree with Chris. That's
Thanks,
we need to pay attention.
Anything to add, Lewis? And you don't have to if you don't have anything particular.
Actually, I agree with Chris that we always have to use it ethically. So particularly when you have some content generated from the AI tools. So never copy directly, and you have to write in your own words, and also you have to counter check for the accuracy of the materials. You always have to check with the original sources, for example, from the library database, and you are also always have to ask your supervisor before you are using the ChatGPT for your project, something like this. Yeah,
that's a great point. Thank you. Maybe just sticking with the copyright, I know there's another question here, really interesting. A scenario: if I train a bot with the research papers downloaded from library subscribed databases, and then I open the bot up for public use, what do you think of that situation? If they are copyrighted papers, it is an issue. And in fact, I can share, because I need to sign all of the library subscription agreements, publishers are starting to put actual legal language into the licenses that say you cannot use any of this content with any AI tool. So now, of course, it will take some time for all the publishers to have those sorts of language. That seems to be the way things are trending. So it might not just be ethically dodgy, might actually be legally not allowed based on the library's subscription agreements with the publishers. So I would be pretty concerned about that. So Lewis, Lily, any further thoughts on that?
We are drafting a guidelines or best practice of the copyrights and the AI tools, and then we also mentioned that as Chris talked about this, because we need to sign the contracts of the subscriptions. So please check with that individual databases,
I think
licensing
that's a really good
agreement first.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but it's such an important point. I want to reemphasize it. If you're ever going to use library subscribed data for something unusual, and we've had this in the past, even before AI, things like data mining, when people wanted to data mine library databases, please check with the library first, because often that can create problems with the e-resource vendors. So if you're not sure about a particular database, ask us.
Yeah.
Okay. Just again, participants, if you need to rush off, by all means, log off at this point and please answer the feedback survey. But Lily and Lewis, you're okay to go for a few more questions?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the top. And apologies, Muhammad Abdullah Al-Mamoun, for you asked your question first, but we haven't got to yours yet. How the AI score will be used in project thesis submission. So I think what Muhammad is referring to here is Turnitin and many of these other tools that used to be used for plagiarism detection, they're now being used to check for AI writing. Now, I can share a little bit because I'm a member of HKBU's task force on generative AI. This is a really thorny problem, particularly because a lot of these detectors, the general consensus is they don't really work. Or if they do, they sort of say things like, oh, there's an 80% chance that this assignment or this has been written by AI, which of course means that there's a 20% chance it wasn't written by AI. So using these scores is really difficult because unlike plagiarism tools, the professor, the faculty cannot check. For when plagiarism is detected, you can look, oh, yes, this source has been plagiarized, or, oh, no, it just hasn't been quoted correctly or whatever. But for an AI score, it's just like you have to trust the AI tool. Oh, it's 80% likely that was generated by AI. So this is not really an answer. It's just like it's very difficult. And it's something that I think all universities are struggling with, like whether or not to use these tools. Now, one thing that many faculty are doing, they're using these tools as an initial screening to see if any follow-up is needed. But really, I guess from a student perspective, if you've been told not to use AI in your assignment, then don't use AI, and you shouldn't have any problem with the score. But if you have been told to use AI, then it should be okay. But yeah, this is really a half answer from me. But Lily or Lewis, anything to add?
No, not
No.
for me. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's a difficult one. It's really it's a real struggle, that one. I want to answer Grace's question very quickly and this is HKBU specific about accessing the ChatGPT 4 API. You'll need to ask the Office of Information Technology about that. I'm not sure if they will allow student access, but we have the principle of AI empowering here at HKBU. So ask the ITO hotline to see if they can hook you up. Back up to anonymous attendee 1. How can we use Midjourney in Hong Kong? It seems to be open. You can just go to their website and subscribe. It's accessed through a tool called Discord, which if you're a gamer, you know what Discord is, but it requires a little bit of setup. But yeah, unfortunately, you have to subscribe to it. I'm not aware of any university that provides access to Midjourney. Certainly HKBU does not. So I don't think there's anything else there. And your second question was, AI tools keep on updating. Could you recommend some links to get the most updated information? I've actually been, and there's some other questions along the same lines. I'm actually thinking maybe JULAC can get together and create exactly that sort of resource, because I think the 8 libraries working together could create something, very up to date. Because as the questioner says, it's changing all the time. So maybe you can work on that. We'll put that on the agenda of our next meeting.
Yeah, next project.
Yeah, next project. I think there was a site-specific question. Oh, here's one. It's for you, Lewis. Will this site assistant fabricate content?
It's not easy to answer this question. And actually, we are not sure. So what's the kind of content is generated from the site? So I think what we can bear in mind is that whatever content generated by site, you have to use it with care, and you have always checked with the original sources, something like that. Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah. And I think that just goes back to what Lily was saying, like whatever you generate with AI, you must check. Because even like hopefully Scite will be genuine citations. They won't be hallucinations. But like Lily was saying in her presentation, the citation may not necessarily back up the statement that was made by the AI. So yeah, got to check everything yourself. Gosh, there's too many questions to choose from. Oh, I should go back and answer some questions that were submitted during the registration. So there's one here that I thought was really useful to address, which is or to what extent should AI be used in academic research, whether that's qualitative research or quantitative research? And I thought it was a really interesting question. And my thinking is that it really depends. It really depends on, what you're using the AI for. Like if you're using, for example, AI to code qualitative data, which is a really useful use case. If you have, especially for qualitative research, you have a mass of, say, interview transcripts, and you can train the AI to code it according, to whatever coding schema that you've come up with. That sounds like it would be okay. Now, if you're using AI to fabricate data, then obviously that's not okay. Or would it be? I mean, I guess it depends. Again, it might depend on what you're doing. So I would say at this point, there's no right or wrong. Always consult with your supervisor, with your colleagues, to see and just kind of get. And what I found, talking about AI, which is why I value JULAC so much, is like just talking to like-minded colleagues and kind of bouncing ideas off them. Like, does this sound ethical? Like, does this sound appropriate? Because it's evolving so quickly that I don't think a single person can have all the answers. Anything to add to that one, Lily,
No,
Lewis?
no, thanks.
If not, well, I should let Lily pick one. Lily, pick a question from the, and thanks again for all of the questions.
Oh, thank you so much. So many wonderful questions. How about we have one is do we use ChatGPT as English editing tools?
Oh, that's a good one.
For editing of research articles or review article, because professional English editing is very expensive. My experience, because I'm not a native English speaker, so I actually use generative AI tools as my English advisor. So I will also do it the editing, but after that I will read it again and try another. So I think it would be an assistant. We can always treat the AI to as assistant.
Yeah.
And what Lewis and Chris, you think?
Well, I can say as a native English speaker, I also use ChatGPT to help me with writing. So I would say, well, I'm just kind of echoing what Lily said, is that as long as you check it yourself, I mean, remember, you still have to take the responsibility. There was quite a lot of discussion about this a year ago among the journal publishers as to whether ChatGPT could be listed as an author on an academic paper. And the consensus was that no, that it cannot, because an AI cannot take responsibility. So I think it's an appropriate use, and I think that is one way you can make a saving, because yes, English editing is very expensive. So I think it's appropriate as long as you read the output. You don't just blindly submit it to the journal afterwards. And there have been some very embarrassing cases recently. There was I won't say which publisher, there was a paper where the abstract, it was clearly AI generated. It sort of said, the abstract started, sure, here's an abstract for the paper, and somehow that got through all of the editing and the proofreading. It's terrible. So I think yes, it's acceptable as long as you double check and make sure that it hasn't changed anything, because you are still responsible for that. Lewis, anything to add?
But I want to respond to one of the questions. So
oh, sure, pick one.
So how is Scite different from ChatGPT?
Ooh, good question.
So I think this is an interesting question. So I think in terms of function, they work similar. But in terms of the coverage, based on Scite, it mentioned that it cover resources from article from some publisher and also from open source article, but not the material from the web. So this is the major difference from Scite with ChatGPT. You know, ChatGPT will include everything from the web, from article, from whatever. So, but for Scite, they claim that it's only cover resource within their database. So this is the major difference.
That is a big difference. Yeah,
Yeah.
with ChatGPT, we don't really know for sure what the training data was. We assume it was a lot, but we don't know exactly what it is.
Right.
Great. Thank you. I guess my turn now to pick a question. I did want to just quickly thank Jacob Thomas, who asked, how does the provenance tracing citation tools of generative AI compare with Perplexity? And I have to be honest, I've not used Perplexity. I've heard it, but I don't think I've ever examined it. Lily Lewis, have you used that at all?
No.
Perplexity also give you a summary. It's very much like Elicit. It give you a summary and then some articles related to the research topic you are try to study. And I think it could be used as a citation tools, tracing citation tools. At least you can find some others articles that are relevant to your research topics. Yeah, so that's my my comments.
Well,
yeah,
that's a fine call, and I think thanks, Jacob. I will need to check this out myself because I've not really used Perplexity at all, and that's the other thing too, like keeping up to date with all of these. I think that goes back to the earlier question about having a library or the JULAC libraries. Actually, I'm going to quote from one of the questions we received in the registration. Best to have libraries to organize a user-friendly one-stop shop for us to, for information in about AI. So I think we'll need to do that for sure, because there's clearly demand. Shall we take one more? Because I know you may not have had lunch yet, so I don't want to keep too much, but there's so much here. Well, this isn't really a question, but Amy asks or suggested she wants more instruction on how to use AI tools ethically. And well, the question was, across the universities, would you share some well-organized instruction sources for us as references? So again, this is something we could curate and bring together in one place for our students and researchers to access. Well, thank you. So apologies if we didn't get to your question. There were just so many good questions. There will be a record of them, and we'll go through them all. And we'll share that with JULAC, all the 8 libraries, and see if we can address some of them, or all of them. That will be our target. Great. Oh, I should have stopped this sharing there. Oh no, actually, I should keep the sharing up, because the last very important thing is to say thank you to you all. Well, to Lily and Lewis for their time and effort. I do want to thank my colleagues Nancy and Maggie for setting up the whole webinar. All of the other members of the JULAC Learning Strategies Committee. Sorry, I won't name you all because we'll be here for too long. But thanks everyone, and thanks most of all to participants. You've been super active and very forthcoming with questions, which has made it very interesting. So again, the recording will be made available. Please do answer the questionnaire, which will pop up when we end the webinar, and look forward to seeing you at our next event. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.